in this chapter, we will create a basic function. And the function is like adding the two numbers, for example. As I said, a function has certain, the function, as I said, is a function is another Python program that does not run independently. It is always called by another Python program. That is another definition or useful thing to remember, that you don't run the Python your function independently. You always call it as part of a part of another program. The program that is going to call is called caller program, and the function itself is called called, because you called this program. Okay, but since it is a Python program, it also has the same concept. It has input, it has processing, and it has output. All three components. You will see that. So let's write a Python function that will add two numbers, or it will calculate tax. And we'll go to the second example later. Let's first focus on one example. The way you do is you say def. Def is short for definition. You notice it become turned blue because def is a keyword, reserved word in Python. It has a special meaning. You say def and the name of the function, add two numbers. And then so this is the name of the function. Whoever calls our function will be using with this name. This name has a naming convention, but it is same as variable name. If you remember, variable name we talked about that it must start with a character, then it can have number, and it can have underscore. The only special character used here is underscore. That's the rule. Number one is it must start with a character. I can't say two numbers. You can't write variable or function as two numbers. This is wrong. I can't do this. I can say some number. Second, since it is it can take underscore as the only special character. I can say add numbers. I can say add two numbers like that. And then after first letter, I can add number here, which is perfectly fine. Okay. Now this is Python rule. But the recommendation on top of it, good to have, is that give the function name meaningful. Second, use either camel case, which I am using right now, add, and then first letter, camel case, first letter is lower, all lower. And then second words onward, the first letter of the second word, third word is uppercase. Add, I'll say two numbers, right? Add two numbers. Or I could have used add underscore two underscore number, but give some meaningful name. Okay, and anything that you have learned, the naming convention or naming rules for variable applies on the function also. Now I defined a function, but my function may or may not have any input, but ideally your function always will have at least one input, because the job is to take some input and do some processing. So let's say I need to add two numbers. I need to know the number. If you say I'm good at adding numbers, you say, okay, I'll give you two numbers. But I need two numbers for me to give you back the result. So let's say n1 is my first number and n2 is my second number. Okay. Now using these two values, n1 and n2, I need to add this. So and then finally you have to give colon at the end here, similar to if, similar to for, while, whatever it is, right? And then I'll say I need to declare if this is my input. The function has two inputs, n1 and n2. It has a name. And I'm going to say my output s equal to, this is my output, it will be n1 plus n2. I could have also said s equal to 0, default value, and then say s equal to n1 plus n2. Really, I don't need it. So, but idea is declare your output variable and then processing to calculate your output variable. And last step is return the value. But remember, the function has to return some value. So I'll say return, and return is another reserved word. It has a meaning. When you say return, means you are exiting the function and you are returning a value. The value can be a number, a string, a list, whatever it is. So let's say return, and return will return my output, which is s. this makes me, this gives me this way we defined a simple function that adds to number. Okay, I said def space function name. If you look at it, def function name, first input, and second input. And then finally, my output variable, I calculated. These two lines are my processing. And finally, I'm returning a value. And what is the data type of S? Depends on data type of N1 and N2. If I pass to a string, they will join, because remember, string can be joined. If I pass number, I'm going to add this number mathematically and return the value. But ultimately, S will be my output. This is how simple it is to define a function. Now I can use this function many times. I can simply say that, let's say I say x equal to add, and you can see two numbers are already defined now, and I can say 10, 20. I can do one more time. I can say add two numbers. I can say 100, 200. You can see I don't have to do n1 plus n2 in again repeating. Since it is only one or two lines, you don't see the difference. But imagine this line was 100 lines. Now all 100 lines become centralized, and I'm simply calling the function wherever I need it, like this. The add two numbers will call the function, go and then print the number, or so I can say here and print x. I can go here and say print y, and let's say inside I'm gonna say print ready to add numbers. I'll tell you what it means. For now, I'll comment it. Let's first run the happy part. We'll run this. As I said, I'm going to delete this comment, or I can leave it actually. You guys can see that, right? Code. Let me run it. So I defined a function and I call the function 2 times. I can call 2, 3 times, 4 times from different programs. Function is reusable now. Reusable, right? Run without debugging. Run it. It says 30. When I pass 10 and 20, when I pass 10, 100 and 200, it passed 300, which is perfectly fine. Now let me, inside a function, let me add and say one print statement. So what I want to show you is how this function is called, and you will notice that. Okay, so pay attention here. Look at the way the output is printed. It first printed read to add numbers. Then this. When I call this function, I call these functions. When I call this function here, it went inside. The line number 12 will not execute. Remember this very important thing. Line number 12 will not execute unless the code written in the function is executed. Then it will come back, set the value here, then it goes to the next line. So the execution in this main program stops at this level. It goes, control goes inside here and then returns, then go to line number 12 again. And you can see the proof, because when you say x equal to add two numbers, actually add two numbers code was called and it printed read to add numbers, it printed here. Then it went to line number 12 after the function returned value x, and then I printed x became 30. Then again, when I go to, let me change the color. Again, when I went to call this function add two numbers, it again called this. It again printed this line here, read to add numbers. It returned a value here, and this value is printed again here, which is 300. So when you call a function, your main program suspends. The execution of next line stops as soon as it sees a function, and it goes and calls the code of the function, finishes that program, and then returns back. This is why function is called subprogram, because you are literally embedding the code of the subprogram. Python does it for you. It takes the code from that function, puts inside your main program as if it is part of your own program. That's very important. So when you call a function, it goes to the code of that function, executes all the code written in that function and comes back and then continues with your own code. It's an important concept to remember. Okay. So line number 12 will execute only after line number 11 finishes. Okay. Now again, there are two inputs here in this function, as you can see, and the order is important. That's what I was telling you that time. When I passed 10, this 10 moved into this, and this 20 moved into this value. Whatever order you are passing, 10, 20, it will go in the same order. N1 equal to and N1 and N2, exactly in the same order.